In this video, we'll discuss how you can allow each user in your application to configure their own preferences for two-factor authentication. So you can see here I'm using a UX component where a user can configure their two-factor authentication preferences, and this component here was created by using one of the sample templates. So you can see here in the list of sample templates there's a template here called Security Framework Two-Factor Authentication Preferences, and you can see here that we're setting up the preferences for a user whose ID is s@a.com. So typically what you'll do in a real application is after the user has logged in, then you'll allow them to set their preferences for two-factor authentication. And preferences for two-factor authentication typically are set for each user because if the user chooses SMS as their method, you'll need to know what their user's mobile phone number is. If the user chooses email as their method, then you'll need to know what their email message is. So you can see here we're in working preview, and therefore we are simulating a user called s@a.com, and that has been set up by going here to the server-side events and the on dialog initialize. You can see that we read the name of the current user from the security framework, and if that is blank, we're going to just simulate a user called s@a.com, just so that we basically can work with this component in working preview rather than running in a live application. Then once we know the user, we call this function called get settings, which reads the settings from the extended user information table, and we then display those settings on the screen. So this function here is going to retrieve the settings from the user information table and then emit the JavaScript necessary to populate the fields on the screen. So if we go back to controls here and then we actually run it, we can see that currently this user s@a.com does not have two-factor authentication turned on. So we're going to go and turn it on for this user and then choose our authentication method. So I can go there and choose, say, Google Authenticator, and if I choose Google Authenticator, then I'm going to need to install the Google Authenticator app on my mobile device. And when I do that, the Google Authenticator app is going to allow me to register a new application by scanning a QR code, and I can produce that QR code by clicking there. And here is the QR code that I would use in the Google Authenticator app to register this application with Google Authenticator. So once I've set up my preferences, I can just go ahead here and click the Save button now, and that's going to save my preferences to the extended user information table. And now the next time that this user s@a.com logs into this application, they're going to need to go through a two-user authentication flow. Thanks very much for watching.